The Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, has sent a strong message to police asking them not to bow down to those in power. Now, the CJI has highlighted the urgent need for police reforms while also highlighting the politicization and criminalization of the police. CJI Ramana said, and I quote him here, "Misuse of police by political masters isn't a new feature. Authoritarian tendencies must be controlled. Any deviation will weaken institution and thereby democracy," unquote. Now, the Chief Justice of India has also lamented about the impartiality of central agencies being under scanner. He said that it must realize that those in executive power go, but the institution, the police institution, remains, and the recent charges of these agencies being a tool of harassment is something which is extremely concerning.
It is imperative for the police and the public to work together to create a safe society. Ultimately, you must remember that your allegiance must be to the Constitution and the rule of law, and not to any person. When you stand upright, you shall be remembered for your courage, principle, and valor. The political executive will change with time, but you, as an institution, are permanent. Be impermeable and be independent. Pledge solidarity to your service. Your fraternity is your strength.
Harish joins us live on the broadcast for more. Harish, thank you so much for joining us. Take us through what exactly the Chief Justice of India has said when he's called for, an urgent need for police reforms.
Yes, very, very significant statement coming in from the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, at the CBI event. At the outset itself, Chief Justice gave a hint to the CBI Director, S.K. Jaiswal, who was also present on the dais, as to what was coming. As he said, when the CBI Director invited me, I told him I may have to express some critical opinions about functioning of the police in India. Hope he hasn't invited trouble by inviting me. Yes, the Chief Justice has flagged, as you rightly said, several relevant issues which have been topic of debates in the recent times, like politicization of investigating agencies, misuse of agencies by political masters, and also criminalization of police and probe agencies, and need for police reforms. Chief Justice said many agencies investigating the same crime will be seen as a means of harassment. Once an offense is registered, it should be decided which agency will probe it. We have seen how, how in several cases the CBI, ED, and SFIO jointly probe a crime. This comments from Chief Justice assumes importance in that case. Chief Justice has a view that people see it as a way of harassment. Chief Justice also importantly exhorted the CBI officials not to become tools in the hands of politicians and regimes. As this chief said, executive in power will change, but you as the institution is a constant. Remember, these comments assume significance. Remember, Supreme Court had earlier first called the CBI a caged parrot back in 2013 during the hearing of the coalfield allocation cases. This was amid repeated accusations from the BJP-led opposition at the time that the Congress government was controlling the CBI. This strong comments from CJI not to fall in the trap of governments or lose independence to it comes at a time when opposition leaders and parties and opposition-ruled states have been repeatedly accusing the government of using investigating agencies of being used to frame false cases and as a tool of harassing political rivals. So CJI has also said it's high time police system is modernized and reformed. This is the exact quote. He said, police reforms have been on the agenda of the government of more than 50 years, and yet nothing has happened. Society has undergone dramatic changes since post-independent era. Police system needs reforms to be in tune with the present-day scenario. Issues that are a problem include lack of infrastructure, manpower, modern equipment, questionable means of procuring evidence, change in priorities, change in political executive, etc. So, as you rightly said, Chief Justice has flagged several relevant issues which have been topic of debate in recent times, like politicization of investigating agencies, misuse of agencies by the government, and also criminalization of police and probe agencies, and have also stressed on need for police reforms.
Absolutely. In fact, Harish, significant remarks coming there from the Chief Justice. I'd also like to bring in Vikram Singh, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the Chief Justice has used extremely strong words. He's telling police not to, bow down to political pressure. In fact, if I can just quote here, he's saying political parties in power will change, but police as an institution is something that remains constant always. How do you look at this statement?
Apeksha ji, good evening. There are sumptuous takeaways from what the Chief Justice has said. In fact, he has said what is the voice of the nation, and I compliment and salute the Chief Justice of India. But it is easier said than done. Let me tell you, I'm a die-hard optimist. But Prakash Singh ji filed his case in 1996, judgment given after 10 years in 2006, 7 bullet points given by the directive of the Honorable Supreme Court, and after 2006, today it is 17 years. And a serving Chief Justice went on to say, what can I do when the Chief Ministers do not cooperate with the Supreme Court? 2. Another serving Chief Justice said, what can I do? Police reforms seem to be going on forever and nothing is changing on the ground. The current Chief Justice has mentioned the flaws and the horrible flawed lines in the system, the caged parrot, the political subservience to the police morality, and I dare say the line of action taken by many police forces and the paramilitary forces is that of the political masters and not of the Constitution. Under these circumstances, I would say that 3 bullet points: uncage the parrot. It should not be caged, whether it's a CBI, ED, or any investigating agency. Standard operating procedures. What the Supreme Court says, Apeksha ji, is the law of the land. It is no longer an option, a compulsion for the nation to be implemented. There is tremendous apeksha about faithful implementation of the police reforms. Now, where the problem is, our political masters would not like to let go of the police department and keep the stranglehold on them, because it is through the police, an absolutely corrupt police and absolutely incapacitated police, who will serve and abide by their immoral and illegal, illegitimate instructions. An upright and a reformed police will be of little consequence to devious political masters. And this is where the problem rises. I am happy that the Honorable Chief Justice has flagged the issues, and police reform should be a national mission, not an ordinary statement, but a national mission. And the people should realize that those who promise to implement the police reform will be voted back to power. And those who want to have a corrupt system, caged police departments, police department that will only go by what your dictates are, legitimate and illegitimate, that police is an anachronism and has to be changed from what existed in 1861 when the Police Act was enacted. Today we are living in 2022 in an independent India, and therefore the country needs a friendly police force, not a feudal police force.
Absolutely. So, in fact, it's interesting that you say that this whole thing is easier, said than done, because at the end of the day, the police force is also, walking a very tight rope. And that's exactly what the CJI is, also hinting towards the credibility of a premier institution like the CBI. It says that it's under a scanner. It has taken action in some cases while there's inaction in other cases. And this has particularly, caught it's caught public attention. So how do you think, a sense of balance, how do you maintain that?
Apeksha ji, credibility like Rome cannot be built in a day. It takes decades and decades of perseverance, hard work and integrity to build up an edifice of credibility. If the Chief Justice has said, you can well understand where the problem lies. The problem lies in the police leadership and the political leadership. They have to rise to the expectation, and the Chief Justice was not asking for the moon when he exhorted the police leadership and the police departments to be accountable to the Constitution. He did not say, you have no relevance or bearing or any commitment towards the political manifesto of any political party. Be accountable to the Constitution, and I dare say also to your conscience. Then I think you will have resolved most of the problems. But who is going to bell the cat? Problem number one. The political masters refuse to listen. And because they refuse to listen, why? Because they would like to have a system of policing that is totally compromised and totally at the beck and call, not committed to the Constitution, but their own political manifesto and agenda. And here is the problem. Number two, uncaging the parrot is absolutely imperative so the credibility is reclaimed, which is today totally compromised. And indeed, I would certainly expect that things improve, credibility is enhanced, and the people get some relief.
Absolutely. So, in fact, my last question to you now, the CJI has also, extensively touched upon the fact that there's lack of trust between the state and the central agencies. Now, we've seen that a lot in the recent past, where the state doesn't, trust the central agencies. It's repeatedly saying that it's being used as a tool of harassment.
Absolutely. The credibility, like anyone, normally, there was a time when I have seen in my own lifetime, not very late, but even till about 7 years ago, something like this, that any central agency was always welcome. And in case of any controversy, it was said, give it to a central agency. Today, it is almost the reverse, and almost 5 states, to my mind, have given and recalled their consent giving provisions to the CBI, and they've withdrawn that consent. Now, why? If the CBI or any central agency is doing and getting to the truth, there should be no problem with anyone. To the contrary, I would feel that if any wrong is done by CBI, ED, or any central, or any agency for that matter, that leadership has no business to continue. That investigator has no right to continue in service. They should be taken to task and not the agency. But once and for all, it has to be decided that if a fair, a transparent, and an expeditious investigation is a requirement, it must be ensured in public interest and national interest, and anybody who stands in between, whether the state government, central government, or the police leadership, they need to be done away with, they need to be set right, and this is what course correction is all about, which the CJI has hinted.
All right, sir, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.